Today we have another young Indian with us in the Voice of the Young segment. Hello, everyone. Good to be with you again. Today we have Mihika Dutta with us. Let's listen to her. Over to you, Mihika.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And thank you, sir, for this opportunity. I'm Mihika. Today I will be talking on how I pivoted from pure economics to development studies, and within that, development economics. And I'll also be talking about my dissertation that I'm working on currently. And also, I will give a little bit, a little bit pointers on decisions and how to navigate studying abroad. And just to begin with my
when
background.
you say studying abroad, it assumes that we know you are studying abroad. Okay, but don't tell us till you are ready to tell us. Okay, fine.
Yeah. So just a bit on my background. I completed my undergrad in Delhi University, and I did economics honors. And right now I'm doing my master's in development studies from LSE, that is London School of Economics in the UK. And currently I'm working on my dissertation. So just to begin with, the way I was introduced to development economics was in my third year of undergrad. I excuse me, I was working as a student, and as part of the course that we have in Delhi University, it is a compulsory course to have development economics, and particularly Sain's work is what inspired me, and I think most of us who are interested in development economics have a background of being exposed to Sain's work and being inspired by him, and I'm no
You mean
exception
Professor
there.
Amartya Sen, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
And given that because I was doing my undergrad during the pandemic, I sort of lost the interest that I had in pure economics, which is micro and macro is what I mean. And I think this development economics was something that I saw myself aligning with in terms of the values, and also making real world impact in terms of uplifting those who are marginalized. So which is why I pivoted from pure economics to development studies. And anybody who's listening, who's also in the second or third years or is thinking about doing a master's, I would really encourage you to also look at courses which are not just an MSc in economics. Especially in today's world, there is a plethora of opportunities and degrees. Just to give a few examples, there is labor economics, there is health economics, especially after the pandemic, which has really risen up and also is in demand. Similarly, environment economics, I think especially relevant after the July that we saw right now, with the changes coming because of climate change. And of course, there is behavioral economics, which is also another very interesting, I would say, field of economics. And of course, there is financial economics and development economics. And these are just some off the top of my head. And I think Googling will give an entire list of the various varieties and permutations and combinations of economics degrees which are out there. And just to give an idea of the scope of anyone who's interested in the international development field, which is what I do. Of course, you can, after a degree in international economics, you can get into multilateral organizations like the World Bank, IMF, the United Nations. But also, it's not just restricted to that. There are tons of opportunities in NGOs, in charities. Policy think tanks is something which is really common these days, to work in a policy think tank. And also many corporate firms also look for people with international development degrees, especially in roles such as an ESG analyst or a carbon analyst, and such roles which deal with the development sector. And of course, there is consultancy firms. There's Amnesty International, BCG hires, that is Boston Consulting Group, that hires and they do also have a social impact sector. So I think a lot of companies to also move in with the corporate social responsibility, and in terms of having a positive impact on the environment, do have now a lot more opportunities in the international development field. And I would encourage anyone interested to also look into this sector. And I think now I'll just talk about a little bit on the dissertation which I'm
Have you
working
got
on.
yourself a job? Or are you
Not
just
yet.
talking in
I'm
abstract?
still a student.
No, I
I'm
know,
still a
but
student.
do you know people who have got such jobs?
Yeah, here actually at LSC, my cohort has varied experiences. I personally did my master's immediately after my undergrad, so I don't have any work experience. But in my cohort, there are people from just a year's worth of work experience to almost a span of 17 years of their careers. So it's really a mixed bag, and I think that is what really makes your experience in such universities so enriched, I would say.
No, I meant, people of your group who have just
Yeah,
about finished. Have they already got jobs or they are?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Some of them do have. I haven't really started applying yet. I'm focusing on my dissertation, but there are people with offers. Yes,
But
but
you're
also
confident. You're confident.
uh, I mean, it's really a gamble. So even the job market here in the UK is not that great at the moment. So I think the competition is not just those of us in London. It's also around the UK and also internationally. So I think it's not that simple to get a job. But yeah, I have my hopes.
Okay. All right. If you want, you can later tell us where your hopes are, but let's continue
Okay.
for the moment.
Yeah. For my dissertation, I'm currently working on education in India. So I'm looking at education enrollments in primary and secondary school in India post-COVID, especially. So most of the discourses in education is mostly related to dropout rates or the mental health issues of students or the issues of distant learning and e-learning, along with also the learning loss which consequently occurred. And I think my dissertation is just an attempt to sort of get and compile all these together into taking a step back and seeing what is happening to enrollments throughout
Okay.
India
Okay.
after COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
After COVID. And
Yeah.
what about before COVID? That's not the focus.
So it's sort of a before and after, like pre and post COVID. So I'm looking at years 2018 to 2018, 19, and 20 as pre-COVID, and 2021 and 2022 post-COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you are done with it, we'll know. But right now, you are still working on it. So we
Yeah.
won't ask you what the results are. But
Yeah,
do you have
it's
any
still a
general
work.
thoughts from all your readings on, say, elementary school education in India? Some general thoughts if you have, but if you don't have, it's okay.
I mean, so I am doing a quantitative analysis, but it's not a regression or that heavy of quants. It's just a basic descriptive analysis of the trends and if they are significant or not. And I would say, in general, overall, throughout the states, there has been an increase in enrollment rates post-COVID, which is a good thing. And even in terms of gender parity, so I I'm still analyzing, but I have an intuition that the way the indicators that I'm using, most of the gender parity index in secondary schools, in secondary levels, is dropping, which means that there is a bias towards boys, and more boys are enrolled than girls.
Okay.
So it's still a work in progress, but
No, I
yeah,
understand.
that's
I'm just
how it looks.
asking whether you have any hunches at this point. Okay. All right. Fine.
Mhm.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
So continue,
Yeah,
please.
and yeah, it's interesting because I also recently was working with a charity here in London, and I was working on a report on education inequalities in the UK. And I think just the themes across education is so similar in terms of the hierarchy of discrimination in terms of, in India, like we have caste, we have religion, and we have other socioeconomic indicators, which are sort of the basis of discrimination. Here it was interesting because there was race, ethnicity, and there was migration status, especially refugee children
Okay.
who do have an issue. So I think it was really interesting to see the sort of similarities, but also differences in a developed country and in a developing country.
Okay.
And when I say that, I also mean that in through what I analyzed, some of the exclusion rates here in the UK are excluding boys more than they are excluding girls, which is opposite as to what is happening or what is generally the trend in India. And even if the girls are performing better here in the UK in terms of academic scores, it again does not really translate well into the labor market opportunities. And when I say this, I mean for children from poorer households, not the general UK population. This was a study for especially school-going children in poorer households in the UK.
Okay. By the way, I now use these words to describe most of the things that you have said, except the migration status. I call it traditional identities.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of going on and saying caste, tribe, this, that, and I just say traditional identities. That
Mm-hmm.
covers all of these as a shorthand term, right?
Yeah.
And of course,
Yeah.
migration is not a traditional identity, but the rest are pretty much traditional identities. And just for me, it's just simpler to say it, what is the role of traditional identities in educational attainment or enrollment and so on. And then we can break it down into or people used to call it socioeconomic factors.
Yeah.
But I like to say it in 2 words. So 3 is too much, 3 and 4 too much. So traditional identity is what I'm using these days. Okay, anyway, let's continue.
Yeah, so that was about my background and my dissertation. And now I would like to talk about my experiences in making the decision to study abroad. And lately, I've also been getting a lot of LinkedIn requests. So I would like to use this opportunity to just address anybody who's looking into pursuing the master's abroad as to what I did and what I think can be helpful. So firstly, I suggest that identifying the course you're interested in is essential, especially because once you go and start pursuing the degree, a lot has to do with how passionate and how driven you are towards the degree in order to be able to just complete it. Because once you're abroad, and generally people don't have immediate family living in whichever country they go to pursue the education, so it really becomes what is your passion and what drives you towards the degree. So I would say course is of utmost importance in my opinion. Next, I would say is that shortlisting universities worldwide which offer similar courses. And I think just exploring further into, once you see an interesting university, just going through their website is also helpful because, as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of different permutation combinations of such courses that universities, even within their departments, have. So I think firstly course, second university. Third, I would say also once you have these two, you should also have an idea of the basic countries which you have shortlisted. And I think this just helps in terms of having an idea of which location you prefer or not in general. And this is all preferably made on Excel so that there is a possibility to compare if you want to towards the end. Yeah, because there's a lot of information at one go.
All right.
After you have the list of countries, I would suggest that you look into possible scholarships. A lot of universities have scholarships depending on your nationality, the applicant's nationality, their work experiences, and some of them are also university and course specific. So it's definitely worth having a look at individually to each university, and within that each course, that what financial assistance they are offering.
Yeah.
In terms of then, I think once you have the list of course, university, countries, and scholarships, there must actually be a list of finances, because to have an idea of how much you are going to invest into your education is really important in terms of not just living costs, but also your rent, your utilities, your groceries. An approximate number is preferred, and you can do it like monthly and then multiply it by 12. But I think a monthly roundup gives you an idea of what the general monthly expenditures are. And also, I would suggest that just have in mind that there is always inflation, and there is always the exchange rate, which goes haywire. So these are the things which you do need to keep in mind. And
Okay.
yeah, and in terms of living arrangements, I would also suggest that starting to look for university living accommodations is definitely helpful.
Yeah.
Because not only are they cheaper because they are student accommodations, but they're generally also near campus.
Yeah.
And it definitely helps save on your travel time.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in a fast-paced master's course. And I think even when I say that fast-paced masters, it's also worth looking into the duration, because here in the UK, most courses in masters are 1 year, but in US, other places, even in India, they're generally 2 years.
Yeah.
So that choice of like how long you want to, how long you are willing to devote to getting a master's is also important. And I think I would say another thing which people generally don't really look at that much is the stay back options. If you want to invest so much into an education abroad, is it that you're just looking to get the degree and come back? Or if not, if you're trying to stay back, what are the opportunities or what is the window that you have? In the UK, for instance, the cohort I came in, we have the graduate route, which is the 2 year post-study work visa. So after we are done with our masters and we have graduated, there is a probability, there is a possibility that you can apply for a 2 year visa extension. But however, I do know that this year onwards there have been some changes, like you can't get dependents with you. So I would also encourage people to just look into the different legal requirements that are there, not just in terms of staying back, but also just in terms of what comes to my mind right now is your working opportunities while you're a student. So in the UK, for instance, we right now on a student visa have a limit to working 20 hours per week.
Yeah.
So anybody who's thinking of financing their masters or financing their living portion a little bit through working part-time has a restriction of 20 hours, which considerably sort of declines the amount of time you can work and the amount you can earn.
How
So I
much do
think
they pay these days per hour? In the kinds
it
of jobs
depends.
that people might get.
It depends. Here the minimum wage right now is so it depends if you're between the age 20 to 22. I think it is 10.98, around 11 pounds for both. It rounds off to 11 pounds.
Okay.
But I do know places which do offer, I mean, below the minimum wage at 10 pounds, but I have not seen it go lower than that. So that's 10 pounds per
But what
hour.
kind of work is this?
It really ranges. You have part-time work, you can become a tutor, which are generally better paid. Universities have part-time jobs on their campuses, and universities generally pay well, which is basically 12 or 13 pounds. So, which is a bit more than what you would get paid if you're doing retail or um, waitering. And I think it also, I don't want to generalize, but I do know bartending gives you higher payments in terms of it's, I think, 17 or 18 pounds, but that also depends on the agency and the company you're working with.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's really varied.
Okay.
But there, yeah.
It's between 10 to 15 pounds, basically.
Yes. Yeah, but there is a wide range, though,
Yeah.
is just what I would like to
So
mention here.
that's, let us say, £1,000 maximum a month.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's not much money. But how much is the rent if you are living in this university? Do you know?
So you mean in the student accommodation?
Yeah.
That again depends. So they have different varieties of accommodations. There is if you're living in an ensuite, then of course it's more expensive. If you're living in a shared bedroom, which is a twin bedroom, it is different. So it's really varied according to not just your campus, but also what types of accommodation and what types of rooms that
Okay.
accommodation offers you.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about? You had some other points, right?
Yeah, just in terms of also, as I said, the job market right now in the UK is a bit of a gloomy situation here. But I would just encourage people to just think about how they want to think of working after their masters,
Okay.
and especially now in India with such optimistic projections for the GDP and in general opportunities of growth in India. I think it needs to be an informed decision whether or not to go back, whether or not to continue.
Okay.
Yeah. That's all I had, and
Okay.
this is not to deter anyone from trying to
No, you're not
go abroad.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple of questions. I'm curious. Okay.
Yeah.
How well prepared were you compared to other students? Not, you are smart. Okay. I don't want that. You're hardworking. I know that. The question is, how well did your undergraduate education prepare you compared to the others in your course? Do you think you were well prepared, better than others, better than average, below average? What was the level of preparation from India?
I think firstly I would say as there are two layers to it. Firstly, I don't have any work experience, so I think in a field like international development, where there is mostly talking about NGOs, ground level, grassroots impact, I think anybody who came with experience did have an upper hand to anybody who did not have. And I think especially those of us who came directly after our undergrad did feel that it is probably a good idea to have some work experience to not just know the field you want to get into, but also just to know what to expect out of your course and just to have like a long-term vision.
Okay.
And in terms of my preparation, I would say that because I was in the COVID batch, my 2 years of my undergrad were completely online. I think it was definitely a struggle to prepare. So mostly what I know of economics and what I prepared for economics is most of my self-taught knowledge and through like various e-resources which were available. And I think in that sense, it was really dependent on whether the pandemic affected you as a student or not. Uh, but in terms of the way that here you're tested, it's not that rote learning, I would say. So um, back in India, how we are always expected to know a particular answer to a particular question. Here, what really I think struck me was they actually wanted to know your opinion, which you won't find that much. It's not that common in tests in India to ask for your opinion. There is a specific answer expected for a specific question, and I think that way it was sort of liberating to give my opinions on certain things, but also it was challenging to navigate where I stand because it was just a new sort of an area where I was not used to. Uh, I'm not used to having to take sides
Yeah.
in terms of explicitly stating out that yes, this is what I think.
Okay.
And in just essays and academic essays which are being graded.
Yes.
And I think essay writing is also something that was new to me, and but I would say that especially because my background was in economics and it was more quants based and graphs and mathematics based. um, and I think any student from a background which does have essays as part of their assessment will be fine.
Okay.
So I think those were my experiences.
But you managed to adapt.
Yeah, I think
So
think
what prepared you to be able to do that? That's the question. That they didn't prepare you for the courses, but they
yeah.
prepared you to adapt. So what did that? Where did that come from?
I guess I don't have an answer to that question, but I think again I really I'm passionate about this area that I've found, and development is
Mhm.
something I was able to connect very well. So I think it's also about your expectations of the course and what you think you will be doing afterwards, I guess.
Okay. So next question, which I'm sure you can answer. What was the most interesting part of your studies in LSE? What did you find the most attractive and most interesting?
I think it's just the combined experience of being an international student.
Okay.
I think there's not one specific thing which comes to my mind. I think it's just the combined experiences. Like there were positives. I found a great network of people. My professors were outstanding. Their knowledge has been really inspiring, and I think just in terms of also navigating your way on your own throughout, in a different country, I think there's a lot to learn, but there's also room for mistakes. So I think I would say that it's sort of liberating in a sense, like I said, that
Okay.
the experiences were very enriching.
Okay. Good enough. All right. Fine. I understand. Okay. Liberating, right? That's the word that comes to your mind again and again. You don't have to do rote answers. You get a chance to be yourself. You get to learn how to do your own thinking, how to do your own opinion. And
Yeah.
it's encouraged and it's liberating, right? It's true.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Good. Anything else you want to add? Comes to your
No,
mind?
I think I'm done with all my points and all I
You're
had to
done.
say.
You're done. All
Yeah.
right. Let's say bye here. And let's see if we catch up with you 1 year from now to see whether you are in the UK working, what you learned from that work, and so on. But in the meantime, let's say bye to the people here. Okay. Bye bye, everybody. We'll be back. I'll be back with another young person or an expert pretty soon. Till then, bye.